I'm going to show you many images. But one of the things that I want to show you cities that are smaller than Victoria and that are bigger than Victoria. That are poorer than Victoria and that are richer than Victoria. Cities that have colder winters, warmer winters. The reality, you know, this is not like in the computer that you copy paste. It's not about copy pasting, but it is about adapt and improving. So we can learn about many examples. But for example, the pedestrian and cycling and transit plan for Vancouver doesn't work in Victoria. The one in Calgary or in Portland or in Bogota or in Copenhagen doesn't work. Victoria needs its own plan. But nevertheless, you can take a look at things that are happening and say, you know, this is a nice idea, this could work here, this could work, take a little bit from here, a little bit from there, create its own things. So we're going to see, everything that we're going to see is applicable to Victoria or any of the communities we see. So we say that we're facing a perfect storm, but this could also be a perfect opportunity. So how to go beyond some baby steps? So this is the idea. What do we say is a perfect storm? Well, we got traffic congestion, we got global warming, and obesity crisis, and economic crisis, and all of those things. And then, you know, part of this is also about marketing. You know, very recently, the only place where we saw bikes was in science fiction movies. But now, all of the actresses and the actors, even the one that did a bigger bike because they get a new kid every year, they are also cycling. And then the non-motorized, the New York fashion show, even Pee-wee. I put Pee-wee because my wife said, oh, you know, you got too many women in your presentation. She said, oh, that's not what I had in mind, so then I put Dr. McCrory. He was a nice guy, he's teaching his daughter how to bike, and then George Clooney. And you know, the reality is we're thinking and we're talking. And that is important because maybe 15 or 20 years ago, we were not thinking and talking as much. But we're thinking and talking, but we're not doing enough. We're not doing. So it's not that we're thinking and talking, but we're going to be more consistent between what we think, what we say, and what we do. Because there is clear some inconsistency, and we're going to see some of those. So the idea tonight is to share some ideas and get some comments and questions about how to move from thinking and talking to doing. Well, the economic crisis, it's obvious that an economic crisis, you know, it's also not a time for band-aids. We're going to be bold. Whatever going to be nice 20 years ago is not nice anymore. One of the things is that walking, cycling, and transit, you know, we got to promote it in a different way. Because it's not just because we're smarter, or it's not just because I like bike riding, no. It's because maybe we got to go to the counselors and have different reasons, what are the benefits? For example, maybe one of the counselors is really into economic development, so we're going to have the benefits for economic development. But someone else couldn't care about that, but is really into public health, so we're going to have benefits for public health. And someone else for transportation. So let me give an example of what do I mean by the benefits. For example, from the environmental point of view, if all of us were going to go to some place, we could either walk or take cars, or we could take a bus, or we could take a bike. So the reality is that pedestrians, cyclists, and buses take up much less space than cars. So when we're in a traffic jam, even if the cars could run on air, not even electricity, but air, you know, the traffic jam would still be there. You know, so the reality is that this needs to change. You know, from the environmental point of view, also, you know, the greenhouse gas emissions. You know, pedestrians and cyclists, and then the buses, and then it's very clear of the benefits of transit. You know, when I say we're going to be consistent, this is in a municipality in Ontario that actually has an anti-idling law. But every other week they approve a new drive-through. So if you're really going to be consistent, you don't approve drive-throughs if you have an anti-idling law. And you don't allow the kids to be driven to school. I'm going to show an example of that. From economic development, you know, the reality is that what really gives character to cities is the pedestrian places. You never hear anybody coming back from Paris talking about how wonderful their highways are. People go to Paris and then they walk. It's amazing how people got only 2 or 3 weeks a year of vacation, and where do they go? Places where it's nice to walk. You know, it's no wonder that those cities get tons of money from tourism. You know, places like Minneapolis, all of a sudden they get over 14 million people visiting their trails. And in many ways, I mean, Victoria has some fantastic trails. A lot of them are recreational, some of them are also used for transportation. But one of the things that it needs to be done is how to link those trails into the city, how to make them interwoven into the city, so that it's not just recreation. And then it is something that could be really, really good. For example, here in Minneapolis, along the Mississippi River, they got all of, when the trail cannot go, it's not just pieces, a piece here and a piece there. No, if the trail cannot go because it's private property, then they just go on top of the river. And they continue. The trail never stops, which is quite nice. From the recreational point of view, people are moving away from organized activities into non-organized and things that people can do at their own pace, at their own time, any time of the year. Things that people can do regardless of the age or the ethnicity or the time of the year. But let's move into transportation because that's an amazing. How many people drive into the gym to walk on the treadmills? And there are other symptoms that don't even need explanation. And you know what people do when they come here? They pay to go in, and what do they do when they're inside? Yeah, they go up and down the stairs. They could have gone up and down here for free. So, the reality also is that walking is a mode of transportation. We are not very serious about it, and we have to become serious about it. I mean, a few weeks ago, I was with the mayor of Mexico City, talking about cycling, and I said, you're going to think of the pedestrians, and you're going to make a link between cycling and pedestrians. And one of his secretaries, one of the commissioners, said, oh, here we got sidewalks. I said, yeah, you also have over 2,221 pedestrians killed every year in Mexico City. In the whole country, they got over 7,000 pedestrians killed. Can you imagine? They have 216 people die from the swine flu, and they shut down all of the schools, they shut down the country, but they get over 7,000 pedestrians, and no one cares. In the U.S., every year, there are more pedestrians killed every year in the U.S. than all of the Americans that have died in the wars struggle. And no one cares about the pedestrians. Unless it's your son or daughter, or your wife, or your parents, then all of a sudden, they're not invisible anymore. So we really got to work on pedestrian issues. And actually pedestrians have plowed, for example, in the winter, we would plow the sidewalks before the roads. I don't know you don't have a lot of snow here, but nevertheless, in some countries actually they do that. They plow the areas for bikes and for sidewalks. Walking, to have proper facilities for pedestrians and cyclists in Victoria is not just something nice to do. It's like a human right. It's the right to mobility. Wouldn't it be nice if the mayors went to city council and said just a one-line bylaw? In Victoria, pedestrians are first. And they send a clear message to everybody. The developers, the schools, the business, everybody. It has to become a priority, Even in the wealthiest parts of Victoria, at least 40% of the people do not drive, Everybody under 16, about 20% of the over 60. So this is not just, and if the place is not as wealthy or as strong, then it's going to be more than 40, 50, 60, 70%. And to improve walkability, unfortunately, it's not one big thing, but it's hundreds of little things. The lines on the top are nice, but it's much better if it's different colors, different structure. This is how pedestrians and cyclists get killed. When people are coming out of the commercial driveways, they only look one way. They also stop on the pavement. They don't look the other way. And all they really need is to have a stop sign, a sign look both ways, painted this, and a ticket that if you don't stop before the sidewalk, you get a ticket as if you have gone through a red light.